So, welcome to Our Heart-Led Humanity. My name is Carolina Grace, and we have an amazing opportunity for some inspiration today with an amazing guest called Kye Crow, who is in the Northern Territory in Australia. And so today we will be exploring what it is to be a heart-led pioneer, going completely off track, going completely self-guided. And this is just an amazing story of somebody who has led her own life according to her own terms, being self-guided through the heart. And I am just so privileged to have connected with Kye and be ready to be uplifted and restored and inspired. So Kye, welcome. Thank you for being with me today. Can you hear me?
It's a pleasure, and that was the most fantastic introduction. Thank you so much. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I think we must warn the audience that we have, because of your location. I am right, it is the Northern Territory, isn't it?
No,
or Queensland.
Queensland.
Ah, sorry,
yes,
I'm just thinking. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Because of your very rural location, we do have a little bit of problems with audio and visual, but we certainly encourage people to stick with us, because honestly, this is well worth keeping your eyes and ears attuned to. So so Kye, you have how do you like to be introduced? Because for me, you really are a pioneer in opening people's hearts and minds to different ways of living and trusting yourself. And you started off in a fairly conventional way in the UK before emigrating to Australia. But every step of your story, there are twists and turns and amazing moments of awareness, truth, and stepping off cliffs. I always think of you a bit like, for those who know the tarot, the fool in the tarot, you know, just jumping off the cliff with one animal, but usually now multiple animals behind you, in total surrender to what's going to unfold before you. So in terms of introducing what you see as the key moments of your life that might be useful for other people to understand who you are, what would you like to highlight as key moments that have formed you as a person to bring you to where you are right now?
Well, I would say that began very young for me, because I can remember being a little kid and being born into a family that I was very puzzled by. I couldn't understand why I had memories of living in a much more conscious way. And suddenly I've arrived in this Kentish family. My father is a commuter going off to London in his advertising job every day. My mum's got the twin set and pearls, doing coffee mornings with her gossipy friends. And I couldn't understand this world that I'd ended up in. I had memories of a very conscious way of living. What I saw in people was like a gap between what they said and what they felt. And so it was very hard for me to interact with people, because I got very confused by that gap. It was almost like, unless somebody was actually speaking who they were, it was like a static feeling for me to be around them. And so as a little child, I'd be thinking, why is she smiling, but I can feel knives?
Wow.
And so I obviously didn't understand that as a child. I used to think, why is my dad going to work like this with no joy? And like, why do they all believe in sickness? Like, sickness isn't normal. I knew that as a child. Wow. So I had all these kind of like, you know, this big struggle, because I couldn't understand this reality I was in. And, you know, I think by the time I got to my teens, I was very angry because I didn't have any mentors or anyone that just fought against the world that I was in. Only older, I've realized that that gap between what people say and who they are is the gap that I've had to bring together in myself, because I realized that I had to behave like that to be accepted in society. If I went out there and said it often didn't go down well. So I learned to express my untruth, and be unreal with people to be accepted. And as I've got older, I've closed that gap. And that for me has been finding my alignment. It's been coming back to my alignment. And in that alignment, everything falls into place. So it began for me as a child. It wasn't something that I suddenly got as an adult. It was there as a child.
Yeah. And isn't it funny that those of us who are walking this sort of more evolutionary conscious path, it seems to be our family that are our first, our most important training ground for the realizations that come through about, hang on, this isn't right. So who am I in relation to this situation that I find myself in? And where do I go from here as the next steps to find what it is that I'm missing in my family?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have those conscious thoughts as a child. I just remember, there was a point where I lost that awareness of who I was before I was born. And, by the time, I think my secondary school, through that stage, I became very angry. And then in my 20s, I felt that I wanted to be spiritual, but I didn't know what that meant. And a whole series of events happened that brought me to Australia. And that was incredible, because it connected me with people that, although they were very basic in what they were doing at that time, they opened doors for me. And so they began this journey of me discovering more about who I was. And it's really like, for many years, we didn't have internet. So it wasn't like we were connecting all over the world as we are now with people who are maybe similar. It was a very lonely journey for a long time. And even friends that I had often didn't relate to me. They often didn't relate to the way that I lived my life. And it's always been, I've always had that thing where I speak my truth. I won't lie. Like sometimes I may do that pretend thing in the past, but I'm not, like if somebody's being abused, I'm going to step up. I won't just ignore it. If somebody's doing something that's wrong, I'm going to speak out. So I've always been that person throughout my life. And I noticed that very few people in my life did that. They were more comfortable with being part of the crowd.
And you did learn very early on to trust your own guidance, though, didn't you? I mean, Kye's written, is it 3 books?
Is it four now?
4.
Yeah.
And I specifically recall the incidents where you went to Bali with no money, and
India.
You didn't know whether to.
India.
Oh, it was India. Sorry. Yes, it was Bali after that, was it? Anyway, doesn't matter. But there was a moment where you had to decide whether you were going to eat or take a tuk-tuk back to where you were staying, and you had very little money, and you were following your guidance. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do. And that was I had all my money stolen from me in India in the first week. And it was incredible, because I'd spent that week guarding my bag, clutching it in case it had been stolen, like hearing the most terrible stories of how Indians part you from your money. And it was so tense. That first week was so tense, guarding my money. And then I had my money stolen. And it was like there was a moment where I just sat down. Oh, for the first 5 minutes, I went into a panic. Then I sat down and I thought, and somebody said to me, you must feel terrible. And I thought about it and I went, actually, I don't. Actually, I feel really good. And that was like a shift in what I opened up to experience in India. And money came to me in incredible ways, never through asking for it, never for doing anything to try and get it, always through living totally my truth in that moment. And I had gone to a little market town because the last of the money that had come to me was running out. And I thought I'll go and buy some rice and a few things that I've got. And it was 2 hours away by bus, this town. And when I came to go home, I had 70 rupees left. And I faced a choice. There was a bus, and it was like the music was so loud in it, and it was just crammed full of people, and it was 2 rupees. And beside it was this little taxi, and it had lace curtains, and it had a little temple of, I can't remember what deity it was now, but it was just like purring. This little taxi was purring. And I asked him how much, and he said 70 rupees. So I've got 75 rupees left. I can either get a 2-hour bus trip for 2 or a 10-minute taxi ride for 70. And I paused for a moment, and then I got in the taxi. And I all the way home, I was thinking, you're mad, Kye. You're mad. And a voice inside was going, no, you're not. No, you're not. This is loving yourself. If you had gone on that bus, you would have exhausted yourself. You would have, this is loving yourself. This is caring for yourself. And that's what I learned in that time. Like, I'm not going to say what happened next in that story, because it was miraculous what happened to me the following day. Because when I went home, I went out for dinner with my last 5 rupees. So I woke up the following day with no money. And what that time taught me was that money is like love. It's an energy. So we would never say in a day, I've hugged 5 people today, I can't hug you. Like, we would never think to budget our love like that. No. But we do this with money, and it's the same. It's the same energy. Yes. And what that time for me showed me the time that we're moving, live totally what feels right, and the money follows us rather than us sitting here and projecting into the future. I want to manifest, $1 million or whatever, or have, a huge monthly amount come in every month. That is no longer the way. The way is that we live fully in each moment, who we are, our truth, and the money follows us. Yes. So that's, I mean, the examples that you honestly, if anybody needs some presents for themselves or anybody else, these books are page turners. They're just, you can't imagine that somebody has actually lived these amazing adventures one after the other in so many different forms, and in both in India and then in Australia. They're just phenomenal series of episodes, real worthy of a documentary series. They're just incredible. But in each moment of crises or whatever, you turn within, you trust your heart, you go against what a lot of people might do logically, and you think, well, what feels right in this moment, and you trust that. Whether it's with money, whether it's making decisions to stay or go, to
be with certain people. It's just, your journey is very much, you're very much the embodiment of the inside out approach of the heart-led, love first, frequency embodied journey.
I have that aspect. I have another aspect I call little Kye, who sometimes kicks up a bit of a fuss and doesn't, you know, the Indian experience was very easy to let go to. The next big adventure, I would say, that we went on was to go on a 2-year trek, traveling in a wagon pulled by camels with 50 rescued animals, and not know where we were going, only that we would be guided. And you know, that was a phenomenal, I can never say this word, phenomenal adventure.
Well,
I resisted that.
I had
a lot of resistance.
The lead up to that adventure was just as amazing as equally amazing in terms of the preparation that went in, and all these animals and the camels that you kept acquiring. I mean, the whole idea of having a handmade wagon that accommodates, what was it, chickens, goats, dogs,
parrots.
I mean, it's just mind-blowing, just the whole idea, the concept. And how many camels were there in the end that you took with you?
We took 19, but we gained another 2 on the way. And both of the other camels that came to us, one was going to be shot. The most incredible, you know, like we were so guided to him. He was a camel that I'd known for a long time, and I'd been asked if I'd have him many times, and he was so naughty, he was dangerous. And I said, no way, he's the only camel I've ever refused. And then we bump into him out bush the day before he's about to be shot, because he's rolled on someone's car and crushed it, and he's terrified people. And you know, like, we took him. We thought it was so serendipitous how our paths crossed. And we thought, we need to trust with this. And so we took him, and he was a little angel from that day on. Like, he was amazing.
He found his right home.
The other one that we took him was this stinky billy goat that we were told that we should never ever turn our backs on. He kills dogs, and he'll attack children, and you always have a stick in your hand when you're with him. And I honestly, we bound him up in the back of our 4-wheel drive as if he was King Kong. And all the time we're putting him in, the people are going, don't turn your back on him. And and I'm thinking, have I gone mad? But it felt so right to get him. And it was like that animal. I just he passed quite a few years ago now. And he died, like, we put him on a mattress. As an old billy goat, we loved him so much. We put him on a mattress, and we put a little pot belly beside him because he loved an open fire. And so he spent the last 3 days of his life and us just fussing him, loving him, and we adored him. And I think the other camel was one that had been put out with some horses into a massive paddock because she was dangerous, and we felt her calling us, and we couldn't quite figure out what it was we were feeling, but it was almost like it's a treasure trail. Once we start to feel something, we get guided each step to that particular animal. And so she came. And
isn't it interesting that sorry Kye, it's engaging conversation with you is so exciting. It just It's so spontaneous that I can't stop myself. My apologies, but it seems that your opportunities for growth, I mean, for all of us, it's about when we encounter these things that we fear the most, and then how do we come to terms with that to overcome them? And it's not by using our logic, it's not by using our head, it's not by going with, well, you know, if I do this, this happens, or from past experience, if I do this, this is what happens, or people say that you do it this way. It's feeling your way to what is the right step for you in this moment, not last moment. Like I've just got somebody wanting to join in. And I think for me, in all the experiences and the adventures that you've had, it's always about following that inner sense of guidance, whether it's from little Kye to the bigger Kye or the fearless Kye. And I love the way that you juxtapose the two. You're so raw and honest with the fears that you encounter and the breakdowns that you have, and you never shy away from showing who little Kye is and the things that we all go through. You know, you just surrender and go, woe is me. But you always come back. You allow that to settle. You reestablish your balance, and then you move forward with that inner guidance as opposed to that external validation. And that's what I find so heartwarming and inspiring from your stories. I mean, if I had to, there's a program here in the UK on the radio that's been going for about 50 years. It's called Desert Island Discs, and they select program. Do you know it? Yeah. And they put us, it has. And they will take a celebrity, and then they will say, you know, you've been cast, you've been shipwrecked, and you're on an island by yourself, and you've got 10 records that you can take with you. And then at the end, when you've chosen your 10 records, you've got several special items you can take, a book or something other than the Bible. I would take your books, because they are just, you know, they are amazing. They just are. I mean, if I had to rescue something from the waves, it would be your books and your cards. And your cards. Yeah, great. Tell people about your cards, because the other thing about Kye, it has supreme creativity as the most innovative artist in so many different ways. And you've created these animal wisdom cards. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the exact title. What do you call them?
Sacred Journey into the Animal Realms.
Yeah, sorry. And they are the most beautiful set of, what would you call them? Oracle cards, animal wisdom cards that you could ever find. The colors, the artwork based on photos that you did yourself with the stories that go with them are just, if people are really aligned with nature, then these are the must-have animal wisdom cards that you could ever want for. So your books and the wisdom cards. But I'm, you know, you can see I'm I've been completely caught up in your work. Yeah. And that's how we met. Because I ordered the wisdom cards, and they were going to take months, I think, to arrive. And I kept checking in with you. Have they gone yet? Do you know where they are? And I think that's how we started into conversation. Yes. Yeah. So you make things.
Those cards, you see, this is the thing too that I really feel is important that people understand at this time on the earth, is that we have come here to do this and situations that may challenge us. And my path hasn't always been easy, and it's like I've had incredible gifts from that trip, but it was very hard. But I've also faced situations that have been very challenging, and part of that was my path as someone that goes into places that are very low vibration to hold a frequency of compassion and kindness with the animals. And Gil and I actually do this with our animals. And a lot of the awareness of what we were doing on that trip when we traveled the 2,000 kilometers has come to me since. I got bits of it as we were traveling, that we were actually moving through a landscape that there was no compassion. It's all about profit for the animals. And we were traveling through, and there's this little fire, this trail of little fireplaces that we left, that we had sat around, like with our billy goat and our camels and our parrots on the chairs and our dogs laying around the fire too. And these fires of kindness that we had in this land, where the people there just took and plundered, and animals were just profit.
Yeah.
And that was part of us healing the earth grid.
Yeah.
And we were guided ultimately to a place that needed intense healing and clearing of energy that had taken it over. And, you know, it's like, it was not easy at all. But this is the thing again, is that we have to go into whatever situation presents itself with the trust that we have everything that we need to do what we've come to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we were talking earlier, how my situation now, how we have been guided to this place. And it is quite incredible because we've been here 5 years now. I have fought it for like 4.5, you know, like, so I don't always, but it, you know, it's like, it's been run down. It's been difficult for the first 4 years we were here. It was in the hands of one person and telling us to go and change, constantly causing problems. So we felt tense being here, but we had to keep staying in a space of love and kindness and trusting in our path. And what has happened in the last year is that it's Aboriginal land. He was an Aboriginal man that had somehow managed to take a piece of land away from the family that should have had it. And what's happened is that we've held the energy on the earth here. We've cleared it. We've done what's come up. We've dealt with what's come up. He's now out of the picture. He lost the land. It's now gone to the family that should have had it. And the Aboriginal elder of that family loves us, like the person that had it before hated us. He thought we were thieves, and you know, he just like he described himself when he saw us, because he saw himself mirrored in us. So now it's gone into the hands of this beautiful elder who, when he comes to visit, we all cuddle, and we have tears running down our face because we share on such a beautiful level with him.
That's fantastic.
And yeah, so the land it's shifted, and it's not been easy at all.
No. But
this is what many people and many people now are losing their homes. They're finding themselves sitting in their car, wondering what they should do. And this is the time when we've really got to just bring ourselves back to ourselves, whatever our situation, and know that if we can just let go of all our judgment of whether it's good or bad, and just allow things to unfold step by step in trust. Each step will be there as we need it. Each step will be there as we need it.
Perfect, absolutely. And this is why I see you as such an important way shower and heart-led pioneer, in terms of you honoring that inside out journey. And I mean, you would never have elected to have gone and had all the myriad experiences.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Are you
did you?
there?
Yes, can you not hear me? Lost video.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Your video has gone, but I can hear you. I can hear
Okay.
you.
I wonder how much of that was that was recorded. It was interesting that stopped at that particular point. I would just quickly summarize. I'm saying that you were following your own truth. You were following your own internally guided path. You were leading from your heart, not your head. You were stepping outside societal norms. You were following an uncommon path, the heroine's journey, in fact, if we move beyond hero to heroine. And you looked at what was right for you, where you were guided. And in so doing, you're opening up pathways I see you, you know, in your energetic grid work that you're doing, you're kind of sowing seeds of light everywhere you go, so that people may not necessarily pick up on that energy immediately, but it's going out into mass consciousness. And as per the conversation we were having prior to this recording, it's about who we, and these are oft spoken words, but it's about who we are being at the moment, not what we are doing. And we were talking about how many people as light workers are feeling compelled to share their gifts in the world. But what if we took that pressure off and said, yes, if you feel called to share your gifts in the world in the old way of having a program or making your services available, what if you just embodied that gift and that frequency and lived your life as you feel called, without the external pressure of having to go out and physically share it? Is that the way that we are being encouraged to be, just to honor our heart, live a life guided by our heart? And if we then feel inclined to go out and share our gifts, then that's fantastic. But what if we took that pressure off from the doing this and just firstly embraced the beingness, the embodiment, and then saw that where that took us, which is what I see you doing. And that is why I find you phenomenally inspiring, and I relate to you so much. So, you know, there is so much wisdom and experience in the life you have led that we can only touch upon like a paintbrush putting a small daub of paint on a canvas right now. And I so encourage people to explore your website, your books, a new website which is going to be coming out, your animal wisdom cards, to acquaint themselves with feeling some of the life that you have lived, in case it inspires others to tap into their own trust and wisdom from their heart. So sorry, that was my monologue of how you've touched my life.
That's beautiful. And I can't actually see you at the moment.
Right. Okay. Thank you. You can hear me. So my video it's very interesting. Let me just see what's happening now. My video seems to have gone offline again. Let's see. No, video's gone offline. Let me just see what I can do. See if we can reconnect.
It's red. It's red, as if it's looking at fabric or something.
Gone to the default camera. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
There I am. So
I think what you were saying about the being, because I always understood this many years ago, but I didn't understand it fully. And it's like how I see it now is that we have to ignite in here, like we have to connect up, we have to plug ourselves in to source energy. And until we do that, we're really wasting time. And when we do that, everyone we meet is changed or lifts because of our frequency.
Yeah.
That's how I see we create the shift.
Yes, and it affects mass consciousness. And we still, in my view, from my experience and what I see, is that there is still a very much a old paradigm way of promoting the light workers' work, which is following a program, which in itself, the word itself is not necessarily the most maybe aligned way of being. You know, if we just, and for me, it always comes back to Gandhi's statement, you know, if we want peace in the world, we have to be that peace first. Everything is that inside out job. We cannot start sharing in the world if we're not. I'm falling apart. My earpiece is coming out now. Video earpiece. I'm being deconstructed, hopefully for reconstruction. We'll have to wait and see on that one. The jury's out. But it feels like I'm just falling apart at the seams. But yeah, it just feels like that if we could just shift our focus from that thing about I have to share in the world to I have to be in the world, literally and figuratively. I have to be myself in the world. I have to embody the frequencies that I want to put out in the world. Then I can share, because the two are aligned, they're congruent. And at the moment, I see a lot of sharing, but maybe without that solid foundation of the beingness and the embodiment of the frequencies first, which cause a disconnect. So that's my platform that I'm really feeling at the moment.
Yeah, it's wonderful what you're doing too, to give space to this, because this is the way that it's new. When we're moving into unknown territory, and I feel like everything that we've had and depended on before it's no longer relevant. Even things like healing techniques. I feel like we've been living in a lower frequency. Like, as much as I have experienced expanded states of awareness on the planet, I have never experienced what I remember before I was born. So I've never experienced that space here on Earth. And I feel like very often people are kind of like with their heads deciding and working out, we're moving from 3D, we're going into 5D, like, you know, this is going to happen and that. And I just think, oh, well, I don't know about any of that. It just feels to me like as soon as you start to do all that head stuff, I move out of my heart.
Yes.
And I just feel like let it all go. Let go of what we think we know and just be willing to move forward now in innocence and openness, that there is a lot more for us to learn and understand.
Yes.
And the tools that we've had up to now are going to be very limited. Yeah. We're going to perceive them further on as like, oh my God, I thought that was so powerful, but goodness.
Absolutely.
You know,
and we know when we're in our head because we're either in the past or the future.
Yeah.
When we're in our heart, we can only be in the now. Or when we're in the now, we can only be in our heart. And I think for me, it's about learning to live in that discomfort of not knowing, or maybe becoming more comfortable with not knowing, and just trusting that what you need to know will be revealed in this moment. And if you don't know what you need to do, then you're not in the moment and it hasn't been revealed to you yet. Because
absolutely,
in the moment, you will get that instant connection. You can't get it from when your head's going into the future, or, you know, you're visioning. And I had this conversation with Sophia Mona Lisa from the Golden Ray Center recently about to what extent, maybe we should bring into awareness, to what extent when we're visioning, we're coming from our head versus our heart. And our head is our limited physical version of what we think is possible, which may be limiting what is possible because we're not fully in our heart and in the moment.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
And yeah, and similarly for mission, what we think our mission is that being limited by our head and our concept of what is possible? And do we truly ever know our mission if we're not in our heart and in the moment? Because in each moment it could shift.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about always coming back to this now moment and saying, where am I? In my heart or my head? And if I'm thinking about it, then I'm in my head, obviously. And if I'm in limited mode or trying to figure something out, obviously I'm in my head. And if I'm in my trusting being present mode, I'm in my heart and I'm feeling connected. So we can only connect with that direct, I call it our resource, our reconnection or receptivity to source.
Oh, I like that.
I knew that was inspired because it wasn't mine. So it just came in and I thought, resource, ultimate resource. We're reconnecting, we're receptive to source. And we can only do that in this moment of inspiration. So actually, I'm finding a great deal of pleasure at the moment of examining words and putting them into a more literal or just reinterpreting them differently. Another conversation for another time. But so there is so much we could explore today, Kye. There is so much. Are there any other things that you might like to share that are either you've come across that you think might be useful to share it right now, or other things that you might like to bring to people's mind that might be useful for right now? Or maybe they're the same thing.
I'll tell you something that, they are actually. 5 years ago, I was in complete grief, darkness. I couldn't see anything in my life worth living for in that time. I had responsibilities with the animals, but I remember sitting down feeling like just in despair. And as I sat there, I noticed the light glinting on a teaspoon that was sitting on the draining board. And you know that little sparkle? Mm-hmm. And I just started watching it. And I could feel it like pulsing at me. And I was aware that something was happening through me focusing on it, but I didn't know what at that time. And what I saw sparkling, and it could have been the sun on the water or a little bit of glass catching the sunlight that was on the ground, or a car rear vision mirror and the light glinting in that. But there's so much change is happening for people right now. And it's very easy to get lost in the despair. Mm. But what I found was that by focusing on those lights, I saw more lights. And then soon I saw even more lights. And it was like they were like my railing back to light. And now I see lights. It's almost like they speak to me now. And I've noticed even that the frequency of those little sparkles has shifted. Wow. And they've become more intense.
How beautiful.
But I just feel like this is a time of such trust. And I feel that the journey from that has been one of the most potent times of my life. It's really helped me shed so much that I didn't need. And we're all going through this. I see us all like stones, stones in a tumbler being polished.
Yes.
You know, and how like rubbing us up and down, and you know, I've shed so much, and I have had a lot of struggle in my life, even through all these incredible adventures, because I resisted a lot, and I was carrying a lot of trauma from different things that had happened. But I honestly feel as if I've moved into a space now that was worth every hard step that I ever had to make. And at the time, there were times when life looked so dark and I couldn't see the goodness in it. But I just want to remind people to trust in what's unfolding in your life, to trust in where you are right now, because we're all in the exact perfect place for whatever it is that we've come to do.
Yes.
And for the, our part in this huge, beautiful, what's the word? Awakening.
Yes.
That's gonna happening.
Yeah.
We're all experiencing exactly what we need for this, to be, to let go.
It's almost like the most spectacular stage show that was ever created, and we've all got our very important part to play, and we're all playing a role that we've never played before, and we're improvising in the moment. We're kind of, we're familiarizing ourselves with where we are, and we're saying, oh, I wonder what I can do next. And I think to be inspired by that wonder and opportunity for creativity versus oppression and stagnation or overwhelm is to look for the wonder and the creativity. And that's exactly, for me, what you epitomize in all your journeys. I think you downplay it enormously when you say, well, I've had a few hardships and it's been a bit challenging. I mean, your books are just... they are just spikes of just amazing experiences and overcoming trauma and adversity in the most insightful and uplifting way possible, whilst never minimizing the drama and the trauma that goes with it. Yet you always come back to what is that, where you're guided to go next. And I think, as you say, if we all remember that we're exactly where we need to be right now. And thank you for reminding me, because I think it's great that we listen to our own voices when we speak this truth, because it's for us to hear for ourselves as well. He says, being surrounded by lots of unexpected animal visitors at the moment. Thank you so much for sharing just a little insight into the amazing journey that has been yours. And I just so encourage people to explore more of your work through the website. Is your existing website going to just transfer into the new one, or how will that be?
It will do, yes. That's what I'm planning.
Okay.
My new website will be kyecrow.love. At the moment it's arcart.
Yes.
.love. Yeah. But everything that we do, all of the books that we sell, whatever creativity we sell, goes back into our private foundation and feeds and supports not just Gil and I, but hundreds of rescued animals.
It's wonderful.
It's like,
it's the eternal figure of 8 cycle of infinity. What goes out comes back, and it's of service. And so you have a Facebook group?
I have a Facebook page. I'm Kye Crow author on Facebook. And my books can be bought on Amazon. Okay,
and under your name, Kye Crow. Did you want to just give the titles of them, just so that people are familiar with them
called,
and show them, of course.
Ghosts and Gummers, which is a little bit hard to see. Gummers means magical stones. And Love We Live.
The colours are beautiful images,
Tracks of Love. This is the latest one. It's only been out for a few weeks.
Yes.
And I've avoided Amazon because, for all the reasons that you want to make ethical choices. And then I really felt I'm going to use them for good. I'm going to get my books on there, and I'm going to infuse the money that I get. Infuse it. And you know what? Amazon love me. They are putting my book up in the top ratings now, and this is like they've only just been out. And they haven't. My sales have been like this. Because I only have been selling tiny in Facebook. I haven't been doing anything else. But despite that, for the last 2 weeks, my books have been in the bestsellers.
Wow.
The
That's
most
amazing.
gifted. I have 2 of my
Fantastic.
books in the top 10 of most gifted. Yes.
Excellent. That's
So
superb.
I feel like it's Amazon just supporting beauty and love, because that's what these
Yes.
books support.
Yes.
And they're there for people to really, to help them align with their own path and to trust in it, you know.
Yes.
And that's what I hope people will get out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You know, I'm
yeah,
so pleased. It's lovely when you see good happen to good people in the simplest,
isn't
in
it?
the
Yeah,
simplest possible way. Yeah, expression. Yeah. So thank you,
yeah.
Kye, so much for being with me today and for
It's been an
sharing your gifts with the
absolute
world, because you are such a pioneer of what I see as heart-led humanity, and you're such a gift for all of us. So I'm so grateful to you. So thank you so much, and
Thank
we
you.
look forward to our next conversations.
I've loved it. Thank you so much. And
That's-
love what you do, really. Love talking to you.
Thank you, Kye. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.